12,500 feet beneath the Atlantic, we begin our descent into complete darkness. The Titanic's bow emerges from the void, massive, deteriorating, yet still somehow defiant. We approach the boat deck where lifeboats once hung. Now only twisted metal remains. Above us, the collapsed dome opening marks where natural light once flooded the grand staircase. We're dropping through the same space where desperate passengers climbed upward, seeking salvation. Now we descend where they ascended, entering the ship's hollow heart through this circular wound that's consumed everything elegant it once protected. A deck interior reveals complete devastation. Carved oak panels that took craftsmen months to create have been consumed entirely by bacteria within decades. The staircase descends through multiple decks into increasing darkness, each level more collapsed than the last. B-deck landing shows where the famous clock once stood, its bronze figures and decorative face long dissolved into the ocean. We approach the first-class reception room threshold, crossing from one empty space into another, all furniture and decoration erased as if they never existed. The reception room where passengers gathered before dinner is now a vast, empty cathedral of rust and shadow. Support columns struggling to hold themselves upright under the weight of rusticles and pressure. Descending to C deck, we find the purser's office area completely gutted, where valuables were stored and messages sent. Only metal skeletons remain. The floor is littered with unidentifiable debris, fragments of the ship's working systems, reduced to abstract rust sculptures scattered in sediment. Fragments of the ornate balustrade still cling to existence. Decorative metalwork passengers, once gripped, now barely gripping itself together. We continue descending to D deck and enter the first-class dining saloon, a space designed for 500 diners simultaneously. The room echoes with emptiness, massive support columns rising into darkness, every piece of furniture and decoration completely dissolved, leaving only the geometry of the space itself. We return to the central staircase void and continue our descent to E deck, deep in the ship's belly where third-class passengers lived and crew worked. Here, the grand staircase intersects with Scotland Road, the main crew corridor running 700 feet through the ship's length. We enter crew quarters where men slept in shifts, small cabins measuring just 6 by 8 feet, all personal belongings dissolved decades ago. Only metal bunk frameworks remain in crew quarters, all mattresses and belongings consumed entirely. Looking up from E deck, the upper levels seem impossibly distant through layers of rustical curtains. We descend to F deck, where the elaborate Turkish baths once offered exotic luxury. Blue and green tiles, carved details, oriental fantasy, all decorative elements completely erased. The grand staircase terminates at Orlop Deck in collapsed debris, just meters above the keel. Boiler rooms and cargo holds below, completely inaccessible. Examining rusticles closely reveals they're not just rust, but living bacterial colonies consuming the ship while building intricate organic structures. 5 miles of electrical wiring once lit the Titanic. Now, copper threads conduct only corrosion. Massive structural beams show riveted engineering detail through layers of decay, stress fractures visible under microscopic examination. Collapsed ceiling frameworks hang like industrial stalactites, and portholes frame views from one void into another. Interior darkness looking toward exterior darkness. Ceramic tiles survive what wood and fabric cannot. Bathroom and Turkish bath tiles scattered across floors, white fragments outlasting the millionaires who walked above them. Thousands of metal hardware pieces collecting corners, the connective tissue of a floating city now disconnected and accumulating like forgotten spare parts. The base of an ornate newel post still marks its position, and microscopic traces of original white paint survive in protected crevices. Where deck levels once separated social classes, now only collapse remains, the ship's hierarchy crushed as thoroughly as her architecture. We pull back from the interior hollow and emerge onto the exterior boat deck, the wreck appearing almost peaceful against the surrounding darkness despite its deterioration. The forecastle deck forward shows massive anchor chains and the areas where third-class passengers gathered for fresh air. Officers' quarters, where command decisions were made, now stand as empty shells, windows gaping into hollow interiors. We approach the bridge, the command center where desperate orders were given, navigation equipment remnants still visible through heavy rust coverage. We pull back from the interior hollow and emerge onto the exterior boat deck, the wreck appearing almost peaceful against the surrounding darkness despite its deterioration. The forecastle deck forward shows massive anchor chains and the areas where third-class passengers gathered for fresh air. Officers' quarters, where command decisions were made, now stand as empty shells, windows gaping into hollow interiors. We approach the bridge, the command center where desperate orders were given, navigation equipment remnants still visible through heavy rust coverage. Hull plating shows 3 million rivets holding steel plates together, now loosening as bacteria work faster than the craftsmen who drove them. We observe rivet failure points where bacterial acid eats steel and pressure widens gaps in slow-motion collapse. Expansion joints reveal deliberate flexibility engineered for heavy seas, not designed for a century of immobility under crushing pressure. Propeller shaft housing protrudes from stern debris, transmitting thousands of horsepower in its working life. Collapsed boilers, one of 29 that powered the ship, stand 3 stories tall, generating only rust now. The reciprocating engine block that generated 59,000 horsepower now produces 0 forever. Electrical panels that controlled the ship's modern systems, electric lights, elevators, heaters, are now just archaeological sites of rust. David mechanisms designed to lower lifeboats worked perfectly. There simply weren't enough boats. The compass platform where officers maintained course now serves no directional purpose this deep. The steam whistle mount remains, its bracket intact, but the whistle itself gone. The last sound it made the noise of flooding water, overwhelming steam. First-class cabins, where passengers paid the equivalent of $100,000 for 4 nights of luxury, now contain only metal wall frameworks. all mahogany furniture and silk curtains completely digested by the ocean. Private bathrooms with porcelain fixtures survive only in fragments. Second-class corridors lead to smaller cabins where passengers still lived better than first class on most ships. But the water made no distinction between ticket prices. All accommodations equally emptied, all comfort equally erased. Third-class common areas reveal utilitarian design without decorative elements, plain steel framework where passengers who paid £7 gathered. Bunk frameworks show where 4 to 6 people shared cramped cabins. The galley where thousands of meals were prepared daily stands empty. All industrial kitchen equipment corroded. The china pantry scatters broken plates embossed with White Star Line logos across the floor. The crew mess, where engineers and firemen ate quickly between shifts, remains as bare as the thanks they received for working until the end. Rosary beads with wooden portions dissolved, but metal crucifix intact. Third-class passengers clutched these as the ship went down, some praying to the end. A perfume bottle with glass preserved, still sealed and holding liquid from 1912, meant to make someone feel beautiful. A fountain pen intended for letters, home describing the journey. The ink dissolved and stories ending unfinished. White Star Line's logo engraved in brass outlasts the company itself, which never recovered from the disaster. A memorial plaque from a previous expedition reminds us the living visit this grave and return to the surface, while the dead remain always. Examining bacterial colonies closely reveals this isn't decay but life. Microorganisms converting iron into energy, building structures, reproducing in ecosystems that exist nowhere else on Earth. Deep-sea fish, invertebrates, and bioluminescent creatures make the wreck their home. Species that never knew sunlight, living on a structure that once reflected chandeliers. Sea anemones wave in currents on railings passengers once gripped. Rusticles grow actively as bacteria excrete acid-dissolving iron, while other bacteria consume it, building formations like living stalactites. These bacterial formations create coral-like reef structures, providing habitat and surface area for life. Industrial architecture transformed into biological landscape. One final look at the grand staircase opening. The ornate clock gone, carved oak gone, passengers gone, but the geometry of space remaining. We ascend back through the stairwell levels, reversing our descent, past F, E, D, C, B, A decks, rising where desperate passengers descended. We emerge into open ocean through the dome opening, the relief palpable even for machines as claustrophobic interior transitions to exterior openness. Rising along the bow's exterior shows the full 15-story profile, her massive scale humbling. How could something this large disappear in under 3 hours through physics, ice, and engineering arrogance? From distance and height, she almost looks intact again, damage and decay hidden by merciful perspective.